Welcome back and continuing on, and this is about overnight policy rate or OPR. The Monetary Policy Committee will commence its meeting on Tuesday and Wednesday before deciding whether or not there's a need to increase overnight policy rate or OPR. Many research firms believe that OPR will remain at 2.75% due to the current accommodative stance amid moderate growth and inflation prospects. And the central bank has halted its normalization cycle in the two MPC meetings in 2023 to evaluate the effects of a cumulative 100 basis points OPR hike on the economy. So to discuss further on what to expect from the upcoming OPR announcement and the reason behind this prediction is Dr. Shankar Nambia, the Head of Research, Malaysian Institute Economic Research, MIER. Good morning, Doctor.
Morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Nabila.
All right, firstly, what are your expectations for the upcoming OPR announcement? Will it increase or decrease, and why?
I think given current conditions, I don't think BNM would want to go in for a rate hike. The question of inflation seems to be easing, and I think given global conditions, it might not be a good idea to go in for a rate hike and raise the cost of credit. Also, I think the external environment is kind of challenging. With all these questions under consideration, I think Bank Negara would like to take a pause and see how things go. I suppose they would also want to evaluate what's happening on the US side, what's happening with respect to the Fed and what the Fed is likely to do before embarking on a further rate hike, if that is at all necessary.
Doctor, what factors are likely to influence the BNM decisions on the OPR? Will the US banking sector, like what happened recently with the Silicon Valley and the Fed aggressive stance, taken into consideration? What's your perspective on this, Doctor?
I think, yes, definitely. I mean, what's happening in the US is going to have a very big part to play in how Bank Negara decides to go forward. And it's a fairly, I think, difficult picture that comes out of the US. On the one hand, inflation has been going down. It has been going down a little bit, not as much as the Fed would like to see. I think it's gone down from about 6% in February to about, inflation has gone down to about 5% in March. That being the case, it still is not sufficient for Fed, and I think the Fed sees itself as having more work to do to bring it down, bring the inflation down to 2%. So while the Fed might want to raise their rates, go in for a rate hike in order to curb inflation, there are other factors that constrain them. One of which is a couple of banks, two banks, I think in particular, have been in a difficult situation, and it's resulted in tighter credit conditions. There is also the prospect of the US going in for a recession, perhaps a short and shallow recession, but nonetheless a slowing down. Given these conditions, it is possible that on the US side, there might not be a rate hike, I think, in the next meeting. But probably before the year is through, that it's likely that you could see another hike, and if things are not too good on the inflation front, perhaps two hikes before the year gets over.
All right, Dr. Nambia, what could be the potential implications, regardless of an increase or decrease in the OPR, on the economy, especially in the recovery phase, Doctor?
Yeah, people do keep talking about recovery phase, and I think when they are talking of a recovery phase, I think the reference has been made to the post-COVID era, and I think I've mentioned this before. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to benchmark whatever is happening with regard to COVID and see COVID as the benchmark, because you have an evolving
situation which is not getting better, which probably might
be volatile, uncertain for the next year or two. Having said that, I think on the Malaysian side, that there is some improvement, and definitely there is some improvement on the inflation picture. It's kind of moderating, 3.7% in February, and in March I think it's gone down slightly, 3.4%. So that's a good thing, but it's not clear how things will work out as far as consumer sentiments are concerned, and business sentiments too. And I think these are important issues, definitely important issues that have to be taken into account in any decision on the domestic rate hike. There is definitely work that needs to be done in so far as we have to keep our growth momentum going.
All right, I want to say thank you very much to Dr. Nambia, the head of research of Institute. Definitely, there's a lot to consider for the announcement of OPR. We want to say thank you very much, and then anything here is very nervous, because these numbers is not just will be affected by individual, but will affect the industry, the companies,
economy,
and everything, and whole economy, correct?